Welcome to Scaling Up, the podcast for water treaters by water treaters, where we're scaling up on water treatment knowledge so we don't scale up our systems. Hi everybody, I am Trace Blackmore, and today's episode is another public service announcement, and it is specifically about the Association of Water Technology Convention, or any convention for that matter. I remember the very first time that I went to the AWT Convention, and I did not know anyone. I knew a couple of people, but they weren't anywhere around. And you walk into this huge exhibit hall, and all these people seem to be clustered together and talking to each other, and they seem to know each other, but they don't know you. And then you see this huge hall, and you're thinking, where do I start first? Folks, I get it. It can be extremely intimidating. But I'm going to tell you some things that I've learned over the years that I think can help you during the convention. And whether you've been before or not, these might be some ideas that give you a more productive week at the convention. So let's talk about some of the things that can be intimidating. The just convention itself is intimidating. It's very large. There's a whole bunch of people in it. I mentioned before, it seems like we don't know anyone, and that might make us feel out of place. And to add insult to injury, it looks like all those other people know each other, and they're walking around with their friends. It may seem like cliques or what have you, and then we're not associated with that, and that makes us feel bad. And then we may not want to bother those people to go up and talk to them, to try to get to meet them. And all that put together, it's just scary sometimes to go to a venue like that. Another thing that we might feel is that we're not prepared, that there's going to be so much information coming at us at the convention. If we're not prepared for it, we're not going to be able to catch all of that. And we might not be able to pinpoint exactly where we should go when they have 1, 2, and 3 tracks going on concurrently. So we're going to talk about all of these issues, and I hope this helps you at the convention. Above all else, I want you to remember this. This is the only place in the world that you are ever going to go to and don't have to explain what it is that you do. The entire population of the convention knows what it is that you do. You're not going to have to explain to them for 10 minutes what it is you do in water treatment, and then the other party walking away thinking that you're a pool boy or something like that. It will not happen here. So everybody take a deep breath in, a deep breath out, and that should remove some anxiety because this is a convention. This is a gathering place of your peers. Everybody in that room knows the stuff that you're going through day in, day out. So take away a little bit of that anxiety just by thinking of that. There's a book out there. It's called The Game. And somebody recommended I read it. And I'm going to tell you what it's about. And you're going to wonder about my marriage. So anyway, I'm going to tell you, it's a dating book. And they told me not to read it for the dating thing, but they told me to read it for public speaking skills. So I did, and basically what it is, it's about people that do a lot of dating and how they're successful at that and what they do. So Stacy and I are fine, so don't worry about that. Our marriage is good. I was reading it for another purpose, but there was something that they said in there that I think applies to this very well. They called it the 3-second rule. And of course, the 10-second rule is you can drop an Oreo on the ground, and as long as you pick it up by 10 seconds, that Oreo is perfectly edible. Well, that's not this. This is the 3-second rule. And the 3-second rule states that when you're getting ready to go and introduce yourself to somebody, you're going to psych yourself out and say, they don't want to talk to me, or I don't know what to say, or I'm going to stumble. Whatever that is, that's going to make the anxiety get higher and higher and higher. And normally people talk their way out of initiating that conversation. So the 3-second rule says when you're getting ready to initiate a conversation or getting ready to think that you're going to go up and introduce yourself to somebody, you're only allowed 3 seconds to have thoughts like that. And after 3 seconds, you're done. You're going to go up there and do it. So you don't get in your head. You don't psych yourself out. So everybody remember the 3-second rule when they think they're a little nervous to go introduce yourself. So with that being said, force yourself to talk to people. Everybody in that room knows what it is that you do. Some of my dearest friends are from the AWT Convention. You don't know who your new friends are until you go out there and meet them. So please use the convention as an excuse to go out there and meet new people. Now, I'm not sure if it was in that book I just gave you or another book, but somebody said that once the conversation gets started, everything else gets easier. So I don't remember where that quote came from, but I think it's a good quote for this. Just remember, the hard part is getting started, is just going up there and doing the conversation. As soon as you start talking with somebody, all that anxiety just melts away. Another tip that I have learned is that everybody eats. Isn't it amazing I learned that at AWT? Well, no, everybody eats, so there's no reason for you to ever eat alone. There's going to be box lunches some days that you might go out to lunch or something. You will find in all those restaurants there, even if you walk out of the exhibit hall, there's going to be people from AWT there. Introduce yourself. Don't eat alone. If you're eating, eat with somebody else and have that conversation. You never know what's going to come up during that conversation, and you never know what kind of friendship you're going to spark out of that. Then I was thinking, what can I do? What can the Scaling Up Nation do to make this even easier for all of us out there? So here's what I've come up with. We're going to do a Scaling Up meetup at breakfast at 7 a.m. Thursday, September 14th. So opening day of the convention at 7 a.m. There's a continental breakfast there. I will be there. Now, all you guys out there, you all know me because you're listening to me in your car. So there's no issue at all for you to come up and introduce yourself to me. And I encourage you to do that. However, I can't see you when you play me in your car, so I do need you to introduce yourself to me because I may not know who you are. Don't take offense to that. I will after you introduce yourself. But then I want you to turn around and I want you to introduce yourself to somebody else that's come up and introduced themselves to me, and that's going to get this whole thing rolling. So we're going to do a Scaling Up meetup. Breakfast, 7 a.m., and we're probably only going to go to about 7:20, 7:25 latest, because there is that commercial corner that's going on at 7:30. I don't want anybody to miss any part of the convention, and I want you all to get jump-started with knowing people. So that's what we're going to do. So I hope to see you at breakfast, 7 a.m. Thursday, the beginning of the convention. So let's talk about some other items that I mentioned. Being prepared. So hopefully now the social anxiety, that's all dispersed. We're all good. But now how are you prepared for a convention? And I know that there are some people out there that don't look at any of the literature until they get to the convention, and then they're confused about where to go when it's time to go view a presentation. Don't do that. Everything's online. There's even an app for that. Assimilate as much information as you can prior to getting there. And then that way you know exactly what you want to see, where you want to go. And my advice is that you get there early. Sometimes these spots, they fill up and it's standing room only. So get there early to make sure that you've got a seat to the ones that you want to see. And don't just sit there, folks. Turn around, introduce yourself. Everybody's just sitting there waiting for the presenter to speak. Use that as prime time to introduce yourself to somebody new. I also want you to consider, as you're reading all the literature that you can find online on these presentations, I want you to ask yourself, what do I hope to get out of this presentation? Write that down. And then as you're going through that presentation, especially afterwards, did you actually get that out of the presentation? So those are some things that help. By the way, I will say that if you do not have a good system for taking notes, try to come up with one between now and then, because you're going to have so many ideas at this convention. A lot of times what happens is people, I can't wait to go home and try this. But then once you get home, the whirlwind of the day-to-day takes place and nothing ever comes to action. So I want to talk about that in a second, but I want you to start thinking about how you're going to take notes so you can revisit them easily. So that's with the presentations. Let's talk about the exhibit hall now. The exhibit hall is amazing. It's huge. Bruce Ketrick mentioned a couple of weeks ago that it literally is every single vendor that you will ever need throughout your water treatment career is all going to be in that room. So folks, please do not squander that opportunity and use the same techniques that we just talked about in the beginning. Have a conversation with people and see what they can do to actually help your business. Now, here is the key, I think, to making this a successful convention. I want you to ask yourself, you know what problems you're facing, you know what you have to overcome. So what item, product, whatever it is, can you bring back that will have just such a dramatic impact if you were to bring that back to your company? Figure out what that is and go find it and talk to all of the people that can help you with that item. Then try to make your way around the entire exhibit hall. So don't just go to a couple of places, or what I see happens is you might have a particular vendor that you're very fond of. They come to your office and you know them, and you might just hang around their booths the entire time. That doesn't help them. That doesn't help you. It seems like it's nice camaraderie, but really, folks, go out there and meet some new people and learn some new things. What are some things that you don't know about that can actually help your business? So try to make it around to see absolutely everybody in that exhibit hall. And once you found that one thing, ask yourself what the second thing is. Always be on the lookout for what can help you solve the next project that's coming on down the road. And for those of you that somebody is spending company resources to send you to the AWT, I can't think of a better gift to sit down with my employer and say, boss, I went there and this is the number one item that I think that will help our company. This is the issue that we're having. This is how we're going to solve it. And this is how I think we're going to put it into place. And these are the 3 vendors that can help us with that. Can you imagine how delighted your boss would be with that conversation? So think about that. If somebody is paying for you to go to the convention or technical training or whatever it is in AWT, we're talking about convention today, how are you going to pay them back? And how are they going to absolutely not even think twice about sending you again in the future? So we spoke earlier about taking good notes. So as you find this number one item in the exhibit hall and you talk to all these people, how are you going to capture that information? Now, I use OneNote, but a lot of people use a notebook or whatever. Try to come up with some sort of system that you can recall very easily, because at the end of every day of the convention, this is what I want to ask you to do. Before you go to bed, I want you to review what you did that day and what the most important things that you could take from that day and apply to a future business date. And then I want you to schedule a time in your calendar that you're going to work on those things. Because I know when I go to conventions or trainings, I get so many wonderful ideas, but then when I get back to the day-to-day, I just simply get buried with that, and none of those ever come to play unless if I schedule them out in my calendar. So do that every single night. So by the end of the convention, you probably have 3 or 4 dates that you're going to be working on various things, or you're going to be making phone calls or something. Do something, jog something in your calendar. And I'm very faithful to my calendar. If it gets in my calendar, I make sure that it gets done. So hopefully you guys are the same way with that. So if you put it there, it's going to get done. And now you bring in your ideas into actions. The last bit of advice that I'm going to give you is basically a summary of what I've just told you. Just relax, have fun, be as prepared as you can, meet new people, and above all else, just learn. And I know it's going to be a great convention. I look forward to meeting you there. And of course, I hope to meet you at the breakfast meetup that we're going to have for Scaling Up, which is going to be Thursday, September 14th from 7 to about 7:20 or so, and then we'll all go to the commercial corner together. So here's a call to action for the Scaling Up Nation. If you could retweet this, if you could post this to LinkedIn, if you could put it on Facebook, whatever the social media items are out there, if you could get the word out about us getting together for breakfast for Scaling Up to start the convention off right, I would love to see as many people there as I can. Folks, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great convention. And thanks for joining me on Scaling Up.